And we are live on the New York Mets post-game show. What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to our post-game show with CP and Rob. We are here to talk about a very rough, a very brutal, there's a lot of words that we'll probably use throughout the course of this show, loss in the series opener to the Atlanta Braves in Game 1. Very frustrating. Lifeless. I don't really know what else to say about this game other than the fact that it gave me a lot of flashbacks to multiple other series matchups against the Atlanta Braves. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Obviously, we'll go over the performances of Severino and this lineup that did not show up at all for the New York Mets. But before we do, please hit that thumbs up on both streams. This is on my channel. This is on Rob's channel. We do not shy away from losses. We are here to talk about losses as equally as we are here to talk about our New York Mets wins. Rob, how are you doing today?
I don't know. I mean, uninspiring, as I said in the chat earlier. It's an uninspiring performance. I didn't expect this performance. Like, I'm not going to say that I was, guaranteeing a win, but they needed to perform better, right? They got an opportunity earlier in the game when Arcia made that error, and they had the opportunity to get him when he kind of lost it a little bit, and they had an opportunity to score early, get on the board, make it interesting, make this game a little bit more, favorable on our side. And every mistake that we made, the Braves capitalized on. Now, the Braves didn't kill the ball around the ballpark. The score is misleading, right? They didn't hit the ball hard. They found the holes, right? The mistakes we did make, they capitalized on. But this is what I was saying in the pregame. The Braves have been there, done that before. And let me ask you, Chris, do you feel differently now? Did you see the nervousness? Did you see the difference in a team that doesn't feel any pressure? If there was any at all, the Mets feel the pressure. The Mets have the pressure. The Braves have no pressure. They played extremely loose today, as the Mets were tight as I ever seen them this year. They played scared today. Severino pitched scared. Severino had two pitches that were fastball that was 97. He's constantly hitting 98, 99. The Philly series, look what he did. 98, 99. He was throwing 95, 96. Timid fastballs. Slider, no sharpness. The entire team played lifeless today. And that's a team that looked like they came into this game scared. Pressure they felt. And, I brought it up because, I was not surprised that you disagreed in the pregame, and a lot of people in the chat did as well. I knew I was going to get a lot of flack in the chat for that. But until they prove that they can play well, there's games you play well and you lose. If we would have played well and lost, I would have came out with like tough loss. But this wasn't a tough loss. This was an embarrassing loss. This was a game that nobody stepped up. Vientos 2 for 4. Right? Iglesias has one hit. Keeps his history going. Acuna gets one hit. Right? Where was Alonso? Where was Nimmo? Bad performances by these guys. Here we go again. And I talked about the core guys are the ones that need to step up here, because I think they're going to be the biggest problem in this series. The pressure is on, and I knew it was going to be on the Mets, and it felt that way from the pregame, Chris.
For me, I'm honestly still going to take the opposite stance, but I will change my stance though, because after a type of loss like this, like we're talking about right now, obviously that pressure immediately flips over to the New York Mets. I still think going into this game, right, despite, whatever the performance was, I still think that the New York Mets, weren't the ones that really needed to feel that pressure. But I think that flip-flops now, and you're talking about a team that definitely is feeling that heat now. And who knows, maybe I might have been wrong in the pregame. I might have been a little bit overconfident. I try to keep an even keel in our pregames going into such a huge series. I did it for the Phillies series, and I did it for this series. But again, you talk about the difference in the situations with 6 left to play for this New York Mets team. There is no way, whether it was actually true or not, that you would tell me, with the way the Braves were playing up until this series versus how the Mets were playing, taking a series 3 or 4 at home against the best team in baseball record-wise, that they were supposed to feel the pressure even going into their House of Horrors, Truist Park. So again, right, you see the sloppy play, right, on both sides of the ball. Let's dissect this, one by one here. We'll talk about the offense because they definitely deserve their whole segment. Get into it. We'll talk about how, and by the way, again, as I mentioned at the top of the podcast, please subscribe to the channel because we talk about losses and wins. We're here to provide a safe space for you all Mets fans, right, to go ahead and vent. So hit the live chat and drop all of your thoughts and opinions, whether you agree with us or you disagree with us. We're going to be here. Hit the thumbs up and smash those subscribe buttons as well. I definitely appreciate that. Let's talk about Luis Severino first and foremost. Obviously, he came into this series, getting his start pushed up for whatever reason. Obviously, right, in terms of, we've been talking about Jose Quintana all year. We've been talking about Luis Severino all year. I think it's safe to say, obviously, if you've been watching the Mets, that Luis Severino has had a better year than Jose Quintana. And also on the back end, obviously, the Mets would rather see Luis Severino, if it gets down to it in the Milwaukee series and it's meaningful, right? You'd rather see Luis Severino on the mound, although that might change some people's opinions.
Big game Sevy is not big game Sevy, I tell you that.
Right, but the thing is that that's how we were thinking, and that's probably how the Mets were thinking in terms of lining this thing up, right? So you see here, 4 innings pitched, 4 earned runs given up. It all started to go downhill. Obviously, it started to go downhill in the 3rd inning. But Rob, I'm not gonna lie to you. As soon as I watched that first at bat with how easy Schwellenbach got the Mets down in order 1, 2, 3 in the top of the first, and then going down into the bottom of the first, I saw a 9-pitch at bat where Luis Severino threw, was it fastballs? 8 of 9 fastballs to Michael Harris, the third. And on the 9th pitch, Harris singles up the middle. And then at that point, I was like, that fear, right? That fear of, oh boy, these at-bats look entirely different for both squads here very early on. I hope that doesn't have an indication for the rest of the game. And it was the Michael Harris the third show tonight with 3 hits, a single, double, solo home run, does it in the field. Like, I just don't understand, how the New York Mets can allow this guy to just burn them time after time after time. And you talked about the lack of execution. That's what I saw with Luis Severino today. Didn't have the sharp break to the slider outside of maybe an at-bat or two to Jorge Soler, who's susceptible to that slider down and out, just like Pete Alonso is. But I saw a guy that also was pitching a little timid, but he was missing down the middle or just over the outer of the plate, enough for the Braves to turn their bats around and smack the ball. And that's what Michael Harris did. And I quite simply don't understand it, because we talked about it in the pregame, right? We talked about fastball up. Michael Harris, talented ball player, but he has a natural lefty uppercut, as does Matt Olson, as does Ozzy Albies, as does Marcell Ozuna, especially the guys in the top 5 of their lineup. This is not JT Realmuto, who's a gap-to-gap hitter that has an even level swing. These guys hit the long ball. That's what they do. That's what their offense is built upon. And it was just, bad locations that I saw from Severino. So again, 89 pitches through 4 innings pitched. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think about this Sevy start? Obviously, it wasn't good, right? But what did you see there? Obviously, he was timid, like you said. And, does your confidence, I guess, my question is to you, Rob, does your confidence waver in Severino should game 162 matter? Although now we're talking about a situation where we don't even know if we're going to be in Milwaukee for 162, right? We're talking about a situation where we could be back for a doubleheader to end the season at Truist Park because of the weather coming up.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Listen, we are the Mets, and it'll probably have to be a doubleheader on Monday because we won't get that lucky. I'm not saying that we won't clinch still, in a different way, and those games still matter to the Braves. But just to travel like that and have to play a day before the opening of the wild card series. And he probably have to travel across country for that matter, is just typical Mets fashion, regardless of if they make the playoffs or not. And those games might matter to both teams or one team. With Severino, right? And I brought this up many times when I used to fight with Yankee fans. Severino has been bad in big games late in the season for the Yankees and in the postseason. He pitched maybe 1 or 2 games that he pitched well in the postseason out of like 8 or 9. He hasn't been a big game pitcher in the biggest moments late in September and in October. It wasn't fair to Severino to make me bring that up in the pregame because he pitched so well and he looked like a different pitcher. But you know what? Nobody really changes, nobody hides the history of past performances. You just don't until you do it, right? The same thing with Alex Rodriguez, all those years in a postseason, terrible performance. Aaron Judge still's got to get over that postseason, the woes that he has. Severino has that same issue. Now, I'm not saying it was this. Remember, the Mets pushed him up. Maybe he does need that extra day. It's late in the season. It's not an excuse, but there could be a lot of factors. Could be he's just not good in big games late in the season. Or was it pushing him up? And this is where I come back about a guy like Jose Quintana and the veteran who I know is going to go out there, is not going to blow by anybody because Severino can't work with a 95 or 96 miles an hour fastball. And when you throw 98, 99, you can get away with mistakes throwing it in the middle of the zone on the corners where these guys were hitting 95, 96 with ease. Like, that is the issue. When you're throwing 98, 99, you can afford to miss your spot because sometimes that velocity tricks the hitters a little bit and you get away with it. You ain't going to get away with it in 95 and 96 miles an hour. And that was his problem today. Now, again, was he timid? And when I say this team plays scared, look at the faces. The first inning, when Severino pitched through 27 pitches in the first inning, look at the faces. They didn't look like the type of team that got out and snuck out of the first inning with no runs. Usually with this Mets team, everybody wants to say this Mets team is different, right? The players are different, right? The vibes are different. The uniforms are uniforms. Have we not seen this throughout most of our lifetime with the Atlanta Braves? It's the jerseys, folks, right? As soon as one thing happens, all the memories start coming back. Was everybody on social media? Was everybody on the Mets Facebook page? All I heard, everybody was talking about 2022. Everybody's bringing up the haunts of Brian Jordan, Andrew Jones gunning out Jay Payton at third. Like, all the things start to come up. As soon as things weren't going exactly right in the first few innings, when the game was still a possibility of winning, if that's trickling in our mind, does anybody think that it's not trickling in this team's mind? Even if they haven't been there before, everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows, right? Everybody can talk about whatever they want. They don't think about bullshit. All right. Severino, right? Just because he hasn't been here doesn't mean his struggles in big games doesn't come to fruition because he has a different jersey on. Well, and the frustrating part is that timid Severino. Now, stupid me, because I like to just destroy myself with this team. I watched Severino's last performance in the playoffs for the Yankees. And his face looked exactly the same tonight in Truist Park. Lost, shaking his head. The fastball was exactly where it was, 95, 96. That was when he was throwing 100 and 101 back in, 4 or 5 years ago. The fact that was eerily similar, and then they showed close-ups of Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, that close-up of Pete Alonso in the front and Nimmo in the back, their faces, didn't they look lost? They look like, oh shit, here we go again. And then Alvarez looking like he's dazed and glared out to the moon. That's a scary sign. And when I talk about until you slay the dragon, until you exercise the demons, and you finally pull through, I think the Mets need to win tomorrow. Because I tell you right now, there is nobody feeling confident if we don't win tomorrow. Now, game 3 might not happen, but this game. Now the Mets have to beat Chris Sale. This is why this game is so important.
Yeah,
And
I agree with you.
it was just a bad performance all around.
I mean, Hayden said the same thing. Tonight was the game to take because we'd be riding high into a game with the Cy Young front runner for going for them and Chris Sale. And now we have to go out there and beat him unless we want to be tied with the Braves, for that spot, depending on what happens. We'll obviously talk about the playoff push here in the next slide with some games that are going on right now. Obviously, we're going to have to scoreboard watch with what happens with the Diamondbacks game and the Giants game that's underway right now. It's ongoing. So, we always talk about having this game, and this season in our hands to take by just winning ourselves and not having to scoreboard watch. And that kind of takes a hit today. But, I don't know. Like, I don't think we can sit here and just, I don't know if I buy into this quote unquote Mets curse that, everyone's talking about. Like, I don't buy into that. I don't buy into that. Like, the record is what it is in Atlanta. I understand that. But there's gotta be some point where they flip the script and they turn it around. I agree with you though. I think the Sevy comparison, with how long in between those two things happened, might be a little bit of a stretch.
I
But
think it's
I look
mental.
at Alonso.
I think it's
I just Alonso for sure. Alonso did not show up, right? He didn't in 2022 either. The core didn't show up. Nimmo, smoked the ball, but again, where was he the entire night before that? I mean, I guess he also did get on base. Let me get fair to him, be fair to him because he smoked the ball at shortstop and got on base. I got it. Winker has looked lost. He's like 0 for his last 12 or something like that. We talked about it in the pregame with Starling Marte, right? And us buying into the fact that Carlos Mendoza is making these lineups, but knowing that Marte hasn't hit in the 3-hole, for the majority of the season, and to put him in the 3-hole right now, it wouldn't make much sense. And you see he goes out there and looks completely lost. I wouldn't expect him to be in the lineup tomorrow. Honestly, I wouldn't. I know that he hits lefties, and that might be his only saving grace to, be appearing in a lineup versus Chris Sale. I get it because he's batting over 300 against lefties. But the fact of the matter is that it doesn't matter the configuration of this order. What the Mets just did tonight, in terms of only putting up one run in this ball game, is beyond the configuration of this order. I mean, Iglesias, yes, congrats, awesome. His 17-game hit streak is alive and well, but he looked lost. You know what I mean? Couple strikeouts there. He was getting beat on the up and in fastball. Tyrone Taylor, a guy that we've been raving about for the entire month of September, also takes the over. The only competent bat in this lineup was Mark Vientos. And let me tell you something about Mark Vientos in this game that separated him above the rest of this Mets lineup. You take a look at his 2 hits that he had. The home run and the single to right field, both opposite field, by the way. Both coming on fastballs. The first one was first pitch against a 97-mile-per-hour four-seam fastball. And then the second, his home run off of Schwellenbach, was off of a 93 or 94-mile-per-hour cut fastball. And you want to know what the rest of the Mets lineup did in their at-bats, in their approaches against Spencer Schwellenbach? The guy who basically tortured them at Citi Field with 7 scoreless innings. They sat there and watched strike after strike early in the count. They waited for the slider to come. They waited. The splitter didn't really come all that often. It was more of a slider for Schwellenbach today. But again, I did not like these at-bats. But what separated this Mets lineup? And it separated them versus the Braves lineup and why they looked competent, but the Mets didn't today? I'm going to tell you one thing. It's that, guess what? Spencer Schwellenbach wasn't perfect either. He wasn't. He threw a lot of fastballs tonight down the middle. And yes, he was mixing it up, I think, a little bit better than Severino was, but they both threw their fastballs down the middle. Schwellenbach was 96, 97. I remember distinctly Francisco Alvarez, right? This entire game, whiffing on the fastball that was down the middle. Mark Vientos did it in his first at bat in the strikeout. Pete Alonso did it today as well. Jose Iglesias did it. The Mets lineup did not take advantage of Schwellenbach's mistakes, but the Braves took advantage of Luis Severino's mistakes when both guys threw their share of fastballs down the middle. That was the key distinct difference to me.
Yeah, and they did hit the Mets did hit a lot of balls hard today, right? There was a few that RCA made a nice play on. That play, I forgot who hit the ball. Was it Nimmo that bounced off Olsen's glove? And
that was Nimmo. That was going down to right field, and he got a glove.
That would have been first and third, or what? 1 out. I mean, who knows what would happen in that ball game? Again, it's a what if situation. They didn't find the holes, right? Where they scored 3 runs in that inning. There was one ball that was hit hard off of Severino, right? They found the hole, they found the grass. What are you gonna do? But I keep on coming back to the same thing. This is the mental hurdle that I talked about for the last couple of days. The mental hurdle is more important than the physical part of the game with this team right now when it comes to the Braves. It is. It has to be. This is why they need a first inning type of boost, like a couple of runs, just to get them going and get that a little bit of that pressure off of them. Because as soon as they fall behind against the Braves, it doesn't seem like they're coming back. They don't seem like there's any fight. And it's a problem. I'm telling you, it's so mental, Chris. I know you don't feel it like that, but you know what? It doesn't even have to do with the team and the organization and the history of the Braves. It has to do with individual mental aspects of their own.
That problem. I agree with. 100%. Not the whole team thing, but individual. I agree with you 100%.
Is the Alonso mental situation what he's been dealing with the whole year, or has it been it's that plus the Brave situation, right? Is Brandon Nimmo just he's been going good? It's clearly the Braves mental part in his head, because he was hitting the last week or so. Severino again, flashbacks of wearing the pinstripes. Like it's individual mental things that I think they have to get over, and then you bunch it together. Everybody's going to talk about the mental situation in Atlanta against the Braves in a similar situation than 2022. And that's where everybody's going to start to talk about. And they're bringing it up on the post game right now. Like it's the issue that I was always concerned about. I'm not concerned about the Mets showing up when it comes to playing well, or at least showing some life. I just think that if things don't go well, if it's not a 0-0 game, or the Mets don't get ahead in whatever innings it might be, I think they're in trouble. They can't fall behind on this team, because it looks like all the life goes out of the balloon with this team. And you saw it today. As soon as they scored that first run, it felt like the game was over. I don't know how you felt, but I felt like the game was over. I mean, it just felt like
I honestly, I hate to say it, but I was like, I didn't think it was over. I was kind of just still holding on to hope, but I was like, I told you, even with the first Michael Harris at bat, I said, listen, if that's any indication of how the rest of the game's going to go, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't foresee good things, because he just took a bunch of Luis Severino fastballs and fouled them off. And then he took advantage of the one mistake location-wise Severino made. And at that point, that was kind of deflating for me to even open up the ball game. So I agree with you 100%. But are you talking about just against the Braves when they go down, or is that in general?
The Braves. It's something about,
okay.
It's not even about Atlanta anymore. It's go back to the home games that we faced them. Right, we were up. We won the first 2 games. The Braves took advantage early in that third game, and they never looked back. And the Mets looked lifeless. The Mets can't fall behind the Braves. And to put the icing on the cake, we're in Atlanta. On top of that, did you hear the Met fans in that stadium? There was a ton of Met fans there. There was a couple of "Let's Go Mets" chant early in the game. Like even the Mets fans tried. And it's like, come on, like guys, you gotta get over it. Like grow a pair, please. Like they played scared, they played timid, right? Besides Vientos, who's the only one that showed a pulse today. Like, come on, grow a pair, play angry. Play angry like you don't want to lose. They played to lose today, and that pisses me off more than the actual loss. Because you're gonna lose a game. It's baseball, right? I'd rather play well and lose than look lifeless on the field and play scared and lose like the way we did. Grow a pair, play angry, play like you give a fuck. They look like they did not give a shit today. Anything that happens, it's like the Braves took a swung at you and you backed up. Like, come on. You were trying to call timeout. Like, come on. Throw a right hook. Fight back. When is this fucking core going to bounce back in these spots? When are they going to show up and fight back against this Braves team? They've never done it. They have not. So for anybody who wants to continue to talk about, oh, this guy deserves a contract, this guy deserves the money, listen, there's one guy that doesn't have a contract yet. This is the guy that we keep on saying, oh, maybe he'll come through today. Maybe he'll come through. They were talking about it on the pregame. Right there, 6 games ago. You hear it on WFAN. The fact of the matter is, until this core does it in this moment, right? We can talk about Philly all we want. The Mets are home. Any adversity, it felt like the fans got behind them. There's no fans getting behind you except for a couple of thousand, not 35,000 that's against you. As soon as you heard that chop, that was it. It was done. It was done. These guys got to show up. Lindor wasn't in the lineup today, right? I'm not saying Lindor was going to come through and, push this team over the finish line, right? I'm not saying that. That is not fair to anybody, right? Because I'm not trying to make Lindor be our savior here because that's not fair to him. But you went 6-1 without Lindor at home. Everything was all fine and dandy. Everybody was smiling and laughing. You saw him walking into Truist Park with their glasses and smiling and waving to the camera. They need to play angry. And this is the problem that I continue to have with this core, right? They have not proven a damn thing. For anybody who talked about it for the last 6 months, 5 months, 2 months, 3 months, one of the best teams in baseball in over 100 games, when the real pressure and the real adversity hits, which is clearly this series, who is going to show up, if anybody at all? Until I see that, how can I trust this team? How can I trust this core to do anything, even if we slip into the playoffs? Do I really trust this core that has proven absolutely nothing? Yet you give Nimmo a big contract. You give McNeil a contract. There's a possibility you might give Alonso a contract. This is the core that you want to continue to trust going forward? I'm sorry. Until they prove it, how can I trust this team overall if the main guys aren't going to do the job? How many times are we going to count on Alvarez or Taylor or Vientos? The guys that aren't getting paid the big bucks, the guys that are the core that's been here all this time. At some point, they got to come through. If not, what are we doing here? We're just going to, play out the string every year and saying, well, if they do this, if they do that, when are we going to say that? When they're 37 years old? I mean, it's ridiculous. It really is.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think everybody sees it, really. I think everybody's just waiting to see if this team actually makes it through to the playoffs or not. At this point, and obviously they still have the opportunity to do so. Again,
yeah,
we will say here, we'll talk about that here in just a second, but it's like to see the same thing. The definition of insanity is what? Seeing the same thing happen over and over again and then doing the same thing and expecting a different result. That's what it felt like to me. The Mets offense outside of Mark Vientos was trying to do today. They were trying to replicate the definition of insanity. Ground ball after ground ball after ground ball. This guy's going to throw you a slider out and away, right? He's going to throw you a splitter like we talked about in the pregame that bites down. That'll have you chopping at the baseball. So I didn't see any adjustments. And then you have Winker too, who just is the polar opposite, is going to pop out every single time during his 0 for 12. It just seems like he just doesn't know how to hit the ball on the ground at all. I'm not advocating for that, but let's get some life behind those pop flies that he's hitting.
Yeah, well,
But
I don't expect much from a bench bat, to be quite honest with you.
and that's also the
But
thing
this
as
is
well,
why
because
JD
what are you gonna
Martinez. This is why JD Martinez
yes,
struggling hurts a lot, because you
and
want
what are
that
you gonna
veteran guy in
do?
the lineup. You
What are
really
you gonna
do.
do with both of them struggling, Rob? What are you gonna do with both of them
I
struggling?
agree,
Who do you
but
trust?
I'm still going with the guy that's been there, done that, and has proven it before. And that's the same thing that goes for Quintana as well, right? I'm sick. Like, you can bring up all the young kids you want to throw out the young guys. I'm sorry, in these moments, I always trust the veterans that are usually not getting the chance most of the time in these spots. I'm sorry. Like, Winker has proven nothing. I know the whole matchup situation, and we agreed that it was mostly matchup. You wanted to get another lefty in there besides Nimmo. Understandable. But JD Martinez, it's one hit away from him to break out. And that's the type of guy you want in the middle of the lineup if he breaks out. I'm not saying he was, and he was going to make the difference of this game today. But why did you bring JD Martinez on this team if you're not going to play him in the biggest games? You brought him in here specifically for this reason. Jay Winker, and I said this when we got him, people made it seem like this guy was Ken Griffey Jr. when we got him. This guy is not the same player he was with Cincinnati. He is half of that player, if that. He is a bench piece off the bat that can occasionally come up and drive one out of the ballpark. He is not a starter anymore. We're treating him like a starter. And just because JD Martinez, who has been proven, even when struggling, can still get a big hit and still is the guy that I would trust in these big games, other than Jesse Winker, who's proven nothing, who's never been in these spots, by the way. That's who we're trusting.
Yeah, I agree
And
with you.
I
I
wasn't
agree with
mad
you,
about
Rob.
Mendoza putting Winker in there because I understand the matchup. It's hard to kill Mendoza with this lineup, right? We can't like it in the pregame and then hate it in the postgame after the fact. That's not because I don't like to do the Monday morning quarterback nonsense. It's not fair. The fact is, the veteran JD Martinez, you paid him and you got him last minute because this is the guy you want in those spots. And I just don't understand it. What are you're going to put him in tomorrow, I'm assuming, right? With two lefties. But the opportunity could have been today. Not saying that we were going to win the ball game, but I know he's struggling. But if Jesse Winker's struggling too, so
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
I
rough.
agree with you. I mean, it's valid. I agree. I mean, as bad as JD Martinez has been, I mean, I don't see Jesse Winker. I never saw him even during the deadline when he got acquired. I like the pickup as a bench bat, but never saw him starting, for the New York Mets. Down the stretch, and definitely did not see him as a middle of the order type of bat for the New York Mets. And I understand that you got to sort of throw the lefty in there in a lineup full of righties, but again, there's only so much that you can do with Jesse Winker. And again, he's not the sole problem of this lineup. You take a look at this entire lineup down the board today, but again, it's just those fundamental decisions that kind of pile up and accumulate. But quite simple, no matter what Carlos Mendoza did today, doesn't matter if a couple of people were available or playing versus not, this lineup didn't get the job done. And that's not on Carlos Mendoza's hands. That is on the players' hands. And I want everybody in this live chat, in my chat and your chat, to know that this is on the players, and this is not, we're not trying to blame Mendoza in any way, shape, or form. Okay, a little bit of a programming break here. 33 minutes in, going on 34 minutes. It's always tough to talk about losses. I understand that, but I did a giveaway recently. Carlos Ortiz won the giveaway. He finally got his Francisco Lindor jersey in the mail. I'm so happy. I appreciate it. Guys, I'm so close to 1,000 subscribers. Hit the subscribe button. I got more giveaways coming up. If you're in the chat, subscribe, and subscribe over to Talking Mets with Rob as well. So many more pre-games and post-games and Mets Talk Lives, everything else in between, roundtables that we got going on for you. And guess what? I know that it's tough. I know that it's tough to come on here and talk about a win or a loss, right? When we all thought it was going to be a win because the vibes were turning around in the New York Mets. This is 2024, not 2022. I understand it's tough. And we're telling you all everything that we despised about today's game, which was a lot, from the pitching to the defense to everything else in between. Although Marte, to be fair to him, right? We were talking about that right field. He made one blunder that made me scratch my head so badly. Instead of throwing to the cutoff guy, because I think it was Michael Harris coming around to score at that point, why are you trying to throw him out at the plate? You're going to let Ozzie Albies take the free base by throwing through Pete Alonso your cutoff? Other than that, he did have 2 great catches in which I did not think he was going to get there. Both would have resulted in doubles, if not triples. So have to be a little bit fair to him. But again, the at-bats, and Luis Severino just simply did not have it today. Gave shades of Chris Bassett last go-around, really. I mean, either Scherzer or Bassett last go-around in 2022. You do not like to see that at all. But all this being said, Rob, we'll talk about tomorrow's game. Do you want to talk about the playoff picture? Or do you want to talk about tomorrow's game first? I'll let you decide.
Let's talk about the playoff picture because the Giants are winning at the moment. Good sign.
Giants are winning. Let's talk about the playoff picture. Obviously, the Braves beat the Mets, not 0-0. My apologies. Braves beat the Mets 5-1. Diamondbacks are playing the Giants right now. Obviously, they're losing, and I believe first pitch just happened just about 5 to 7 minutes ago. Padres are playing the Dodgers as well. A little bit of a tough schedule for both of these teams. Obviously, the Giants are red hot right now, and then they got to go and play the Diamondback, or they got to play the Diamondbacks have to play the Padres in the next series as well. And obviously, the Padres are playing the Dodgers right now. You see the standings in the wild card. Padres are at +4 with this Mets loss. Mets are still hanging on for dear life to that 2 spot. Depends on what happens today against the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks lose tonight against the Giants, which we're all scoreboard watching for. Obviously, the Mets are still half a game up on the Diamondbacks for the spot, but the Braves are right there, and they're creeping up on the Mets and Diamondbacks both. And there's a little bit of a slim possibility that the Diamondbacks kind of just fall out of this race, and maybe the Mets and Braves both end up, being the second and third wild card team, no matter how it shakes out. But the Mets are now 87-70, obviously exceeding or meeting your expectations for the most part, exceeding mine very slightly, but they got more work to do. We talked about it like last week or a week and a half ago, where we saw this team, needing to be at in the win column to end the season to be a playoff team. And with 5 games left to go, right? 2 against the Braves, 3 against the Brewers. I don't know, man. I don't think they can afford to lose many games, if any game at all. So what do you think about this, Rob?
I mean, the Diamondbacks are kind of making it easy for the Mets and the Braves, man, because they're not playing well at all. I mean, they're playing worse than everybody in this wild card mix right now. But you know what? I didn't want to scoreboard watch. I really didn't. I mean, we didn't need to scoreboard watch. We're playing the team that's behind us. All you have to do is win. And that's the frustrating part, right? That's the issue. Look, there's 2 more games to go. This is not a death sentence losing to 1 game. It's obviously better to win the 1 game, first game, so you have a couple opportunities to win the series. But, I just didn't want to scoreboard watch. Now I have to freaking stay up and watch the Giants, checking the score, probably getting no sleep once again. It's annoying. It really is. I just did not want to scoreboard watch because it had nothing to do with us until we lost. And then I have to check the score. Giants have second and third, nobody out. That's a good sign. The Giants are playing inspiring baseball all of a sudden, which is great for us. But yeah, I mean, God, does anybody feel confident about tomorrow? Yeah, we can keep on looking at this. Look, the Mets have overachieved expectations, right? I mean, who knows? They might just have 87 wins. Would be a disaster, but there's a possibility they can have more than 87 wins, obviously, and it's looking, it's a really good season, and it's like we talked about it now. It's going to be very disappointing if we don't make the playoffs. We can talk about, nobody thought this was going to happen. They overachieved. There's no bonus points here. We're still going to talk about in the offseason, do you believe in this core? We're going to still talk about that. I'm sick of talking about it. Until they do it, it just doesn't make sense, right? So, I don't know. Hopefully Arizona loses, and we're still a half a game up on them, technically a game and a half with the tiebreaker. So that helps us out a little bit, even if the Braves do pass us. But yeah,
Giants though.
Yeah, 4-0 Giants. Yep. So good sign for us. that really helps, to be quite honest with you, because I'm not confident in the series anymore. I'm really not. Like, I was a little bit more confident. You were much more confident than I was going into the series. I feel like the mental aspect is more of the issue, not the physical aspect. I don't care who was red hot going into this series until they actually do it. And I think that's why I said they just need to win one game. If they win one game, I think all that pressure comes off their shoulders and they just play baseball. And I said it. They just need to play baseball. They were trying too much. Even Luis Alacuna, I know we got a hit. Or did they call it a hit? They did call it a hit.
They did call it a hit.
He was swinging for the fences, and I understand he's with his brother. His family's in the stands. I get he's probably really nervous, but he was even swinging for the fences. You didn't see him swinging for the fences like that when he was playing the first couple of games with the Mets. He didn't do that, and everybody else was trying to do way too much. And they just got to play within themselves, play fundamental baseball. You talked about Marte and not hitting that cutoff man. That run scored in that inning. That was a huge run there. That could have been a 3-0 ball game still instead of a 4-0 ball game. So it's
or
little
Alvarez
like
bumping into Sevy to begin the third inning, right? I mean, you don't know if he's going to get that runner out. I mean, maybe not, but he doesn't go in advance to second base. That's for sure. If that doesn't happen.
Yeah. And look, and this is what I worried about with Marte. Like, I understand what Mendoza was trying to do, seeing if, again, trusting the veteran Marte with the bat. He didn't do nothing with the bat, but even though he made 2 nice catches, that one that was going to right center, he misjudged. He got back in time. That one that was going to the fence down the line, that was a good catch. But the other one, he misjudged, and he got lucky he caught that ball. Or that would have been another guy on second base. But again, that's why I don't want Marte in the outfield. The guy is an idiot when it comes to, defensive fundamentals. It really is. It could be age, but you know what? That had nothing to do with age. All you had to do was hit the cutoff man, and the guy doesn't advance a base. That was a huge advance of a base right there. And what I talk about, the Braves play fundamental baseball, especially against the Mets. They don't make many mistakes against the Mets. That's why the Mets got to be near perfect in their fundamentals, or you're not going to beat this team, regardless of Riley. Regardless, look, guys, Riley's not on this team right now. Acuna is not here. There should be no excuses. I know they got all the guys that can do damage, but come on, guys. You got to play fundamental baseball against this team. Any mistake they capitalize on, especially against us. And when they make a mistake, which they made 2 today, the Mets did not capitalize offensively, and it burned us today. And that's the verdict of the 5-1 score.
That's it. So let's talk about tomorrow as well. Obviously, the Mets are going to need to do something tonight. I don't know what they got to do. I don't know what their rituals are. I don't know what they did today. Do the opposite of it. I don't know, but it's David Peterson versus Chris Sale. 2 southpaws. David Peterson last time out against the Phillies was abysmal in that 12-2 loss. And on the flip side of the coin, if you're able to scratch even a few runs, as the Mets did the first time out against Chris Sale earlier this year, you will be lucky. And, this is the matchup. 18-3 with a 2.38 ERA for Chris Sale. David Peterson's having a pretty good season despite a couple of rough outings over his last 3 or 4 outings. 9-3, 3.08 ERA. I think that he's produced a lot better than what any Mets fan would sort of expect. But again, when you take a look at this deflating, right, and momentum killing loss in game 1, whereas if you were to take this game and just hypothetically you get shut out against the Cy Young probably winner, then it's no harm, no foul, because you still get another crack at Max Fried in game 3. But now it's like, obviously, and you talked about in the pregame, right? We don't want to think 1 out of 3. We want 2 of 3. We want to clinch. But at this point, if the bats don't show up tomorrow, David Peterson can go out there and pitch his ass off. And I hope he does, right? Because we need it. But if the bats still don't show up, and they're going to do the same thing they did against Spencer Schwellenbach tonight, they're going to do the same thing tomorrow, then we're going to be on the post game talking about the same damn thing tomorrow, Rob. And we're going to be sounding just like this. And guess what? I'd rather be spamming W's on a post game stream than talking about everything that I despised in this game, which was everything pretty much. So here's your matchup: 87-70, David Peterson versus Chris Sale. really not much to it. And if you take a look at Chris Sale's season so far, obviously past just the win-loss or the whip or the ERA, you take a look at his arsenal, fastball, but his best pitches, he's only got 4 of them. Best 2 pitches he has is a slider. The other one is a changeup, but his best pitch is the slider. So it's a weird arm angle. Obviously, we've seen it in our own Sean Manaea, right? In terms of how awkward that can be for opposing hitters with that kind of, I guess, pitch motion and where he's kind of fallen off to the left-hander batter's box. But this guy's tough. He's got a big frame. He's got a 95-mile-per-hour fastball, but the movement, guys, go look at Chris Sale's Savant page. I don't want to be a doom and gloomer here. I don't want to sit here and tell you all that the bats aren't going to show up tomorrow. I hope they do. I hope they pull a Joe Boo and do whatever they need to do to get these bats going. I don't care. But this is going to be a tough test. And I think that every Mets fan, I think, realizes this, whether they're going to say it or not. But we're going to say it on here. So, again, I don't know if we have any keys to victory. We'll talk about Lindor here in the next slide. Obviously, Lindor homered off of Chris Sale for a 2-run home run in that extra inning win, 3-2, back on July 26th or something like that. But, man, Rob, this is tough. This is going to be tough, especially after a game like tonight.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really think it matters what Peterson does. I think it's going to come down to the offense, to be quite honest. He can pitch solid. He can give up a couple of runs. I mean, Chris Sale hasn't given up more than 2 runs since June 1st. Like, it's a tough task for the Mets. And you know what? I'm going to tell you right now, Lindor is playing tomorrow. I'll tell you that right now. He came out.
I just switched the slide. Should I just switch the slide? Because I had it already here. Francisco for game 2.
Okay, I'm telling you right now, he came out on the on-deck circle when Vientos is up at the plate in the 9th. Lindor is playing tomorrow. I don't care if his back hurts. He's playing tomorrow. That something's got to inspire this team. And who knows? Maybe the only guy that can do it is Lindor. I'm not saying he's going to be the end-all be-all, but you know what? Put him in a leadoff spot. Maybe he'll jack one over the wall in the top of the 1st and get things started for us, right? He's done it before. And look, it's clear he's playing tomorrow. Like, I'm sorry. He's got to play. Just it. Look, you're hurt. I understand that. Unless you can't play at all, at this point, I don't care if you're 60%. Get your ass out there. Your team needs you. And I think he will. Like, I don't see this as the type of guy that's not going to play if he's in a little bit of pain. He said he's going to be in pain. And he knows his team needs him at this point right now. I think he's going to be out there. And if he's not, well, shame on him. Unless he's really, really that bad. But you know what? You were on the on-deck circle today, ready to take a pinch hit appearance with 4 runs down. So that shows me that you want to be in this ball game. You put the cleats on in the middle of the game. As Steve Gelb said, you were ready to go. Maybe you were trying to inspire your team or something. But, I mean, just get it done tomorrow. Find a way. Peterson can pitch a gem and we can still lose. That's the frustrating part. I'm not saying that, you're going to hit Chris Sale a lot. You might not. But we didn't hit Zach Wheeler. And I know Zach Wheeler and Chris Sale are basically fighting it out here. And Chris Sale probably has the edge. But, I mean, find a way. Even if you can hit him, make him work. The Braves aren't going to push him. They're not. I'll tell you that right now. They're worried. They're deathly afraid of his injury history. They're not going to push him far enough if you can get that pitch count up. They're not going to do it because they might need him for game 162 or the Monday game with the Mets if they don't play on Thursday. So that's a possibility. It's 7-0 Giants, by the way. So thank you, Giants. You actually show some fucking life. Thank you. So the fact is, this team's got to find a way to win tomorrow. Do not try to look. I don't want to lose tomorrow and then game 3 gets wiped out. And now, we got to play the Brewers and we know the Brewers clinch and they're not really playing for anything. I'll tell you right now, that team scares the life out of me in those 3 games. Maybe not the playoffs. I don't know. But those 3 games, I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with Milwaukee.
I don't either. I'll be there.
Listen, get it done. Just get it done by any means necessary. Fundamentals work the counts, foul off tough pitches against Sale, get him frustrated. His slider, he usually does not like to throw that slider for a strike unless he misses his locations. He likes to play around the zone with that slider. He likes to throw it ankle high and make you go fish for it. He'll challenge you with the fastball, especially letter high. He will do that. But work the counts, make him work. Get him out of the game as quickly as possible. If you can't hit him, at least get him out of the game within the first 5 innings or so, and maybe you'll have an opportunity to win the ball game. That's the only confidence I have tomorrow.
And that's something that the Mets did not do tonight against Spencer Schwellenbach. They did not make him work. It looked like it was pretty effortless, right, for the entire game. And that's something that they can't afford to do tomorrow. I agree with you. They made Wheeler work, in my estimation. I understand pitchers are going to get theirs, right? Wheeler got his. Chris Sale will get his. But you got to scratch off at least a run, especially if you go down, right? Because the Mets went down 1-0 in a Wheeler start, and they came back to tie it on a Tyrone Taylor single. So it's doable to scratch off 1 or 2 runs and get these guys out of the ball game and try to take a crack at their bullpen. That might be the strategy tomorrow. I don't know, but it's possible. So you cannot tell me, right? Again, we don't have to feel optimistic about it, but in the back of my head, I know the Mets can do it because they scratched runs all season long off of great pitchers. So hopefully they're able to do it in Atlanta, a ballpark where they haven't been able to do it many times before. And hopefully, again, as I said in the pregame today, right? Hopefully, that's all we can do right now is hope that they flip the script. But Lindor, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not confident that he's going to be in the field, but I think he's going to be taking at bats tomorrow in a real game situation. Mid-game, Steve Gelbs tweeted out that he took off his sneakers, went to the clubhouse, put on his cleats. He was looking at the iPad. If the Mets were threatening to score, his number was going to get called, right? But again, he's going to be dealing with that discomfort. I don't know what they're doing with Lindor in terms of the treatment. Maybe they're giving him some sort of like shots, to get him up to game ready or whatever, numb the pain, etc. But he had a heavy heating pad on his back. He's going to continue to feel that discomfort, right? And he's going to be dealing with that pain. But also, I mean, obviously, you look at the history, he hit the home run for Sale, whatever. You need your best player out there. Lindor is your best player. And I'm sorry, this core would be, we wouldn't even be talking about meaningful baseball right now with the way that Nimmo and Pete Alonso were producing this season if it weren't for this guy right here on your screen, Francisco Lindor. So maybe it does take him to save the day, Rob. I agree with you. Or maybe it doesn't, because what we saw tonight, I don't think any one guy can fix. Even if your name is Shohei Ohtani or Francisco Lindor or Aaron Judge, it's going to take a better team effort than what we saw tonight. But maybe this is the start. Maybe Lindor's got the energy. Maybe he rallies the team, and we can just hope for. There's a lot of maybes. That's the theme here. There's a lot of maybes with the Mets right now going into tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Listen, I think Lindor has good numbers against Sale. If I'm not mistaken, I think they talked about that I think they were talking about that on WFAN earlier today, that Lindor has pretty decent numbers against Sale. So, you just hope it inspires them. And that's sad to say. It shouldn't get them to inspire. Look, you should be inspired because you win 2 games, you clinch. That should be inspiring enough. If it takes Lindor to inspire you, that scares me even more. Because if Lindor can't go, or if Lindor has to get pulled from a game because his back acts up, this is why we need somebody else to step up, because this team wouldn't be here without Lindor, especially because of Alonso and Nimmo. So, look, find a way to win by any means necessary. Thank you, Ray. I know Evan Robert. I know somebody said it on WFAN. They just got to get the job done. Do it any way possible. I don't care. Win 1-0. Give me that. I take it. I run to New York with that right now. Like, that's where I'm at right now. Anything else? I don't have to say nothing else. Just get the freaking job done.
No, yeah, get it done tomorrow. Again, hopefully my schedule allows for a pregame with the weather. We don't know if they're going to move anything up. That's the weird thing about this all, I guess, is my final thoughts here about how the MLB is handling the situation.
Terrible.
And that there's Carlos Mendoza said it on the pregame. And by the way, there was an official tweet from the MLB updaters like MLB Underdog account on X, whatever, they're pretty spot on. Mendoza himself said, this is factual information, that Lindor could be available tomorrow. But again, if that quote's coming out right now, then we could imagine that he's going to be playing tomorrow
Yeah.
in some sort of capacity. But the MLB and the way they're handling this rain, well, I don't know, Rob. At this point, seeing what we saw tonight, would you rather take the doubleheader, or would you rather just take a crack at Sale tomorrow on the short turnaround? What would you rather?
I probably the short turnaround, to be quite honest with you. But the issue, and you're 100% right about MLB. Like, they've moved games. They moved Tampa with Detroit already, right? They moved a lot of games around. You know, the Cubs have played multiple times in Milwaukee with terrible weather, when there was a snowstorm at times. You know, they can do it. There's other opportunities there. There some people were talking about the Mercedes-Benz with the Falcons play, that they've played high school baseball games in there. Now, I don't know if that's 100% true, but I think they have played high school championship games in the Mercedes-Benz stadium where the Falcons play. Why not do something like that? Or why not just, I know the Braves are going to lose money, but if the Braves do not want to play on Monday, right? They don't want to play on Monday either. That hurts both teams. So MLB should have already changed that. Now, tomorrow's a different story. Tomorrow's 50-50. So I don't blame MLB for tomorrow. That's just a shitty luck if it happens to rain out. Thursday, we already knew a week ago that this was going to be a problem. They needed to change this game. They needed to play it somewhere else and give both teams the equal opportunity in that game. There should be no reason why, because what if there's a tiebreaker when it comes to, you know, whatever it might be, and somebody has to play on Monday for a tiebreaker? You know, because
it also might rain on Monday in Atlanta, Rob. It also might rain on Monday.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like they're really playing with fire here, right? What if the hurricane does a lot of damage in Atlanta and it's not raining, but it's just a hard way of. Remember, the Mets have to fly back from Milwaukee as well. You know, that's not going to be an easy flight coming back. What if it's still bad weather and they can't get in? You know, there's a lot of outcomes. They might not even get out on Thursday to go to Milwaukee on Friday because of the weather. There might be no flights. They were talking about that too. So MLB has done you know what? They should have just, after today, they should have moved these last two games. I know it's not benefiting the Braves with the home field advantage, but you got to play these games. It's too important for both teams. And I even think the Braves, maybe not tomorrow, but Thursday, they would agree to move locations and not play the game on Monday because it hurts both teams, especially if both teams need that game.
Yeah, it's just an overall headache of a situation for me to even try to figure out, or for us to try to figure out on here. Again, the lack of contingency planning on the MLB's part is disgraceful. Mendoza said he hasn't heard anything, not even a single word from the MLB about what a contingency plan could be. And it's just absolutely bad news. It's absolutely bad news. And especially after a game like today, if you're a Braves fan, you're a little bit more calm than we are. But after what we saw tonight from our Mets, obviously it's got us kind of a little frustrated with the way this is all being handled. But again, the Mets did it to themselves. Carlos Mendoza didn't do this to them. Steve Cohen didn't do this to them. Nobody did this to them, right? Because they got here, they did it to themselves. It was uninspired baseball. If the game does happen, I honestly am hoping it does at this game, because, you know, I'm the type of person that says baseball 162, you crap the bed today, you get to do it again tomorrow, and you get to right the wrongs tomorrow. So hopefully there's a game played tomorrow. It's going to be a tough one, obviously, with who the Braves have and just how energetic and energized they look compared to the Mets. It's going to be tough, right? We're praying for at least one game at this point, right? Whereas we were hoping for two coming in. So we'll see what happens. But those are my final thoughts. I guess I wanted to shout out this comment as well. Yosemite is a Braves fan, but I love the passion. I like to hear real fans talk about their teams when things get tough. It's rivalry week here in Atlanta. Mets, Braves, Dogs at Bama, Falcons got the Saints. You guys have, as you know, you guys have got it all going on over there across all sports. It's rivalry week here between me and Rob with our Giants and Cowboys squaring off on Thursday Night Football. So, no, I definitely feel that. Yosemite, please, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here, even as a Braves fan. Thank you for being, respectful. You could be up here gloating, and I'm sure you are very confident in the Braves, but, we welcome everybody and anybody, even if you're the opposition's fan and part of their fan base. So definitely appreciate you all. Please, again, Rob, I'm going to leave you with the final thoughts here, but please hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button on both channels. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers. If you're in either chat or if you're on X, wherever you're at, come over to the channel, subscribe. Carlos has got his giveaway prize already in his hands with the Lindor jersey. I'll be doing more giveaways once we reach 1,000 subscribers on the channel. I appreciate it. Very rough loss, very tough loss. Hopefully we see the man, the myth, the legend, Francisco Lindor in the lineup tomorrow. He was almost ready today. But again, it's crunch time. We don't make any excuses for this team. I told you all late August and early September. I personally am not making any excuses for this team. And for them to go out there and do this in game one, if they lost the game, like Rob said earlier, fine. If they looked competent doing it, they did not look competent. They did not look good. Turn around, get some rest. Let's do it tomorrow, weather permitting. Rob, final thoughts.
Yeah, I started the stream when you asked me how you feel, and I was like, that was uninspiring. I want to see inspiring baseball. Look, I'd rather lose playing well than playing like we did today. Show some energy. There was none. Inspired baseball, fundamentals. Not saying you're going to win the ball game, but play a good game. Give me a game where I could say they played their asses off, but it wasn't enough. I'd rather say that and come on the stream feeling good about at least game 3 if they lose because they played well. It just didn't happen. Both teams can play well and somebody's got to lose. I just want to see inspiring baseball. There needs to be energy here. Tomorrow should be a desperate team playing the Atlanta Braves tomorrow. Quite honestly, they should play desperate tomorrow. They should play angry tomorrow. That was embarrassing. Somebody needs to speak up in that damn locker room if they did it already and say, guys, where is the energy? Where was the energy that we just had a day ago, 2 days ago? Where is it? Get it done. Just do it. I'm sick and tired of saying who it should be. Somebody's got to do it. And regardless of who it is, I hope it happens because I just the mental part of this whole thing is just frustrating the shit out of me. And just play inspiring baseball. That's my final words.
I agree. We're frustrated. The chat, unless you're a Braves fan, you're frustrated. But guess what? We'll still be back here tomorrow rooting on our Mets if the game happens, and we'll be up on stream talking about a win or a loss. We don't shy away from the losses. Obviously, today was a great vent session. Appreciate you all being here. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe to both channels, all that good stuff. We'll see you tomorrow. Let's go Mets. Hope for a better performance. It's not going to get any easier. Catch you all later. Peace.
Let's go Mets.